Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today, as this is a Monday podcast episode where we do a deep dive into a specific astrology topic. And today we're going to take a look at the energies of Uranus retrograde in Taurus, as Uranus will station retrograde on August 24th at 18 degrees and 55 minutes of Taurus. That's nearly 19 degrees of Taurus. And we'll travel back to 14 degrees 56 minutes of Taurus until January 23rd, 2023. So that is a 5-month period of time when Uranus is retrograde, which is typical for every calendar year. And this is where Uranus travels over the points in our charts where it has already been, and we are being guided to focus on what areas of our lives need these reconsiderations, reprioritizing, reviewing, all of those RE words that are associated with any retrograde period. But the Uranus retrograde is unique because Uranus is about quantum potentials, what we can do quickly, what we can see in a very fast manner. Uranus is about lightning strikes and the electrical circuitry. It's about our nervous system. It's about how quickly we can adapt and change, as well as liberate ourselves from things that have been unconsciously constraining us. Uranus is often the energy of things happening out of the blue. That's why there can also be chaos, disruption, rebellion. It's where a part of us seeks greater independence. It's where we seek a greater understanding as well to a higher connection, a higher knowingness, being able to access new wisdom, new knowledge, and understand what to do with it. Uranus is also where life picks up its pace. And in this area of your chart, between, we'll call it 15 to 19 degrees of Taurus, Uranus is bringing your attention to what you're ready to radically change, because Uranus is about how we're ready to shapeshift and move, do things differently, make drastic changes in our lives. And this is something too that can show up as once in a lifetime changes. Now, it does take Uranus 84 years to move through the full zodiac. And so there are significant periods of our lives where Uranus is requiring us to make big life changes, to understand what's ready to shift and evolve in ourselves as well as in our everyday lives. Uranus is where you can have a sudden knowingness or quick understanding about how you've been living your life, a particular area of your life or a particular part of yourself that no longer fits, that no longer works. It no longer feels that it's authentic and connected to your unique spark. And that's where Uranus wants you to understand more of who you are. Uranus helps us with the individuation process, becoming our own individual energies within the whole of the universe, within the overall energy field of humanity, and how it is our uniqueness that is needed and how that is a strength. So Uranus wants us to bust out of our chains and break out of constraints and let go and release anything that has been holding us back, that is based on older belief systems, that has prevented us from growing. Any type of constriction or restriction, Uranus fights against. Uranus wants us to access that inner rebellious energy, but do so consciously, do so with an understanding of what we're choosing or deciding, but do so from the core of understanding who you are and what you need. And when you connect to that part of yourself, when you're hearing that energy within you, when you're understanding more of who you really truly are, not who you thought you had to be, not who you thought you should be. So this is where we look at the shoulds in ourselves, the shoulds we hold around particular roles, or what we think we should do for family, or what we think we should do in the world. This can also be addressing the expectations you've had on yourself from when you were younger in terms of how you thought you should show up in the world or the path or career you should follow. Uranus is bringing up the bigger questions of asking, is that uniquely you? Is it really who you are? And if so, own it powerfully and fully. But if not, then this is where the change is necessary. And in fact, this is also where the universe comes in and shows you how the changes can happen very quickly, very abruptly. And also the universe is showing you that there's many, many ways that you can be your authentic self in this life. And are you choosing that? Are you honoring that? Are you owning it? Uranus is also connected to the electrical circuitry within our bodies, our nervous system, how we are wired to be humans. And with this Uranus energy, what I was receiving about this is that Uranus is essentially connecting us to our unconscious programming. Specifically, when you think about a computer, how a computer has an operating system. That's what Uranus accesses within us individually, your own operating system, your own circuitry, and that is at many levels of your being. So that isn't only your physical energy and your energetic self, it's also going deeper into your belief systems, which are the foundational energies that create your life. So here we have some Uranus lightning strikes coming through and bringing our attention to certain parts of our own unconscious operating systems and asking us to be very clear on how it's truly working for you. Is it operating in the best possible manner? Is it optimum? Is it really the best you can do? And chances are we're feeling this. In fact, we've been feeling it for a number of months because as I record this towards the end of August 2022, we've just had very big energies with Uranus conjunct the North Node and Mars in Taurus, as well as strong activations with the Sun in Leo and the Aquarius full moon. So we've been moving through some significant breakthroughs and bigger understandings around change that's necessary, but at a foundational level where you might see or be in touch with more of your own limitations, more of your own unconscious needs, more of your own operating system and internal programming that has just been chugging along and doing what it usually does until Uranus comes through, blasts that lightning strike of insight, awareness, or disruption, and awakens something within you that was dormant or untouched. And it feels like during this Uranus retrograde phase, we're going to be deeply understanding more about how we have established our lives based on certain value systems that we're ready to upgrade. So when I think of this Uranus retrograde, I actually think of the word rebooting. We're rebooting a part of our energy. We're really understanding more of what we've been working with and working through. And now we're ready to upgrade it, elevate it, and really look at how we can expand into more of our own potential now that we see where we have been holding ourselves back or perhaps unaware of some of the programming within our own operating systems. So there is definitely some deeper work here that is being instigated. And Uranus is in Taurus, and Taurus is the second sign of the zodiac. It is the first earth sign, and it's the first fixed sign. The energy of Taurus is how we establish the essentials in our lives. It's how we understand what we need and what we want to have a good life. And what does that mean? And of course, that can evolve and shift throughout your life. There are parts of you, perhaps, that have raised your standards and your requirements in certain parts of your life. And the Taurus energy wants you to do so. The Taurus energy wants you to understand that you're worthy of living a beautiful, happy, worthwhile existence here. And how are you allowing yourself to experience that? because you might come up against some of your own patterns or resistance to change that is showing you where the discomfort has become too much. It's a bit like wanting to reach for something, but you can't quite get it. You can't quite grasp it. It's like the energy isn't connecting. And there's something here that Uranus in Taurus is bringing your attention to about those upgrades. And as this retrograde period unfolds from August 24th until January 23rd, there are review circumstances coming up now. There's periods of time where we're looking at certain choices, patterns, routines, things we've assumed, things we've taken for granted, ways we've just lived our life. And Uranus is saying, is this still what you value? Is this still resonating? Is it still in alignment with what you need and what you want? And if so, that's fantastic. But if you're ready for more, or you want something better, or you're ready to do it in a different way, this is going to be a significant period of time for you to understand what needs to change at a foundational level. So when you think of Taurus as the first earth sign, it's literally how we begin to build our life here and what that means, what that looks like. And I feel like what we're really going into at this time is understanding that it's okay to require more. It's okay to ask for better. It's okay to want and desire those upgrades. But in order for those to truly manifest, you have to look at your foundational belief systems around what you've been holding energetically around certain areas of your life, certain parts of yourself, certain parts of your experience. So in your natal chart, you would specifically be looking at the degree points of 15 degrees to 19 degrees of Taurus, and whichever house that's in is where Uranus is coming through and bringing those lightning strikes to the earth, cracking open parts of your life, parts of yourself, parts of your needs, asking you to make room for the new, make way for what can happen next. But in order for that to unfold, you have to have space in a particular part of your life for the new to come through. And keep in mind, this is new territory for Uranus in Taurus. Uranus has not been in this part of the zodiac for 84 years. So it's moving into this new turf, this new territory, really stirring up what you perhaps relied upon, what you found stable and comfortable. Again, things that you just found easy were just part of the status quo. Now the universe is saying it's time to rework this, to look at it in a new way. How can we recalibrate this? How can we look at this so that what you're now requiring is better for your life path, what you want next, what you're moving towards? But do you have the belief system that supports that energy? And all too often, we can have a mental thought about it. We can say, sure, I do. Yes, I want that. Yeah, let's do that. I want to manifest it. But then when you dig in deeper, when you go into the heart of your own self-worth and personal value, you might find there's places within you that actually wobble, that aren't really as steady or confident in a particular desired outcome or manifestation. You could find that there's actually parts of yourself that don't really believe you can experience something, or you can have something, or that it has your name on it. You can believe that it's for someone else, it's too hard, you don't deserve it, it's going to fall apart. You could have these lower fears that get in the way of what you really want to develop, grow, and manifest. And those fears have been especially potent with the South Node in Scorpio, bringing our attention to what has been in our subconscious, what we've been holding and carrying around certain parts of our lives that need to evolve, that need to transform, yet where our fears might feel like they're very big or they're keeping us captive in some capacity. And it is quite rare that we have this outer planet, Uranus, in the same sign as the North Node and opposing the South Node in Scorpio. So essentially, two parts of your consciousness could feel like they're at war, could feel like they're in a disagreement, that they are in this place of tension, that there's this resistance, and that there's a lot going on where it's not simple, it's not comfortable, it's not clear. In other words, the universe is saying you have to look at this, you have to really go in to this emotional energy you're carrying in Scorpio and deal with it. Bring it up into the light. Really look at where those fears are holding you back, because over here on the other side of your chart in Taurus, there is an energy that wants to set you free, that supports the change and the evolution, that supports where you want to go next and what is possible, but it's requiring much, much deeper work. And not only are we working with the North Node and the South Node, but those points are also always connected to the eclipses. So here come these eclipses that keep us rocking and rolling, keep us in that place of discomfort to support the evolution and the change, but also stirs up the pot, also keeps us in that place of needing to deal with something and look at it, where you can't push it away, you can't move it to the back burner. It's coming up front and center, because this is a period of time in our evolution that we can make beautiful, drastic changes. We can really elevate something that has been holding us back. We can really look a very deep fear in the face and find our power, find a place of ownership and evolution, so that there's energies here that help you to move forward. But to be fair, it could be bringing up the deepest pains, the biggest vulnerabilities, the parts of yourself that perhaps you've known they're there, but hey, I'll look at it another day, or maybe I don't have to change this. Maybe I can just let this ride and it will all be okay. But this is an energy of the universe saying you deserve more. And if you've been your own worst enemy here, if you've been the one holding yourself back in some capacity, this is a period of time for you to really look at how that is serving you. If that's bringing you the manifestations that you're wanting to create, or are you stuck in a habit, in a routine, in a pattern? Look at where that Scorpio South Node is showing you what you're ready to evolve and move forward, but it does require the intentional work, and it does require giving yourself compassion for those fears or those vulnerabilities. It requires you creating room in your energy to fully accept unconditionally what you've been feeling or sensing under the surface. And keep in mind, this is very private information or very private energy. This isn't the stuff that we just put out there or share openly. It's some of our deepest, darkest secrets. It's connected to perhaps any areas of what we have suppressed because we don't want to be judged. It can be about any of our private addictions, things we do behind closed doors, things we don't want others to see. This can involve obsessions and parts of the shadow self that haven't been integrated or acknowledged. This can be things that we even have been feeling a sense of deeper shame around, where you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to look at it. You don't want to deal with it because of that energy that is so low vibe, which shame is, because shame is one of the lower emotional expressions that we feel towards ourselves that we don't always know how to move past or heal or grow through. But keep in mind, the more support you have right now is in these Taurus energies. And this is where there are opportunities to rebuild, or really ground in to what a truth is now. This is where you could also have some very clear messages for yourself around what you're 100% complete with. I'm done with this. I'm over this. I'm going cold turkey on a certain part of myself or a certain part of my life, something that I no longer want to take forward. And this is where you can have a 180-degree change in your life, because that is a strength of these fixed signs, where you can be so clear and so certain on what you no longer want to participate in, what you no longer want to energetically create. So I feel like that is one of the strengths, and that is one of the themes coming up during this Uranus retrograde, is that we have opportunities here to make some very solid, empowering choices around our life path. But the universe is saying you've got to deal with any skeletons in the closet first, because otherwise they're going to come back around, hold you down, or show up again, because as we know, energies don't just go away, they transmute into other forms. And that is something that we need to intentionally be aware of within ourselves is, well, what is holding me back? What are these fears? And these fears are related to some type of lower belief system that you are reprogramming, rebooting, and elevating, because there's something coming into your consciousness that fully supports it. You could feel something shifting within you, perhaps. You could feel your sense of self-awakening and expanding to even more than what you thought you could experience in this lifetime. You could perhaps feel your belief systems really evolving into a place of greater love, greater self-acceptance, greater joy, because there's a part of you that's connecting to that higher wisdom in the universal frequencies. We are experiencing so many downloads at this time that are showing us more of what is waiting for us, more of what's possible. And what I'm feeling too is that during this Uranus retrograde in Taurus, you could get some very quick messages that just hit hard, where you just feel it. You just know something. You don't know how you know. You don't know where it came from, but it just comes in a way that you can't deny it. And it resonates so deeply as a truth because it's the energy speaking to you at an energetic level, getting into the core of something within you and revealing more of what's possible and what you can create. And I feel like these downloads, they happen so quickly these days, and the changeover can be quite fast as well, meaning you could feel something shifting in yourself in a matter of hours or days or weeks. It could be like it's moving through you at a faster rate, and it's accelerating you to something else that you haven't touched before. And I'm getting that energy of connecting with new frequencies that are both familiar but out of this world, almost like a home vibration or a home frequency, like something just feels like your new natural state, or it just feels like, yeah, this is a better fit. This is more of me. And I didn't realize I had certain fears holding me back, certain parts of myself that didn't support my personal value in this area of my life. So we are receiving these value system upgrades where we're starting to understand, yes, I can create that. Yes, I can have that. Yes, I can experience this in my life. But it has to be acknowledged where you've held fears that have held you back. And you have to be very honest with yourself, brutally honest around your own limitations or belief systems that have kept you in something that isn't fully your natural divine self. And because this is about Taurus energy, and it is about our self-worth, our personal value, what we need, what we want, what we believe we're worthy of, this can bring up so many parts of our lives that we are renovating. upgrading, reprogramming, and the universe could deliver in something very quickly, very out of the blue, almost like a test. And I don't mean that as in a pass or fail necessarily, although that could be the case in some situations, but it's almost like, are you ready to step higher up? Are you ready to elevate? Are you ready to go into this new energy without having answers, without having clarity, without knowing perhaps everything that you would prefer to know? Because again, Uranus takes us out of a comfort zone. This is growth without certainty. This is growth without knowing how it's going to play out. But that's also where the big rewards can show up. And Taurus is not naturally a gambler. It's not a sign that takes a risk. And this is where it's also very uncomfortable at times. And you could have that push and pull, that yes or no, I don't know. But with Uranus, things move on. So it's like the energy of 1 week can bring up a lot, but then the next week, the energy has shifted and you no longer have perhaps that same open door or that same opportunity. So part of the Uranus energy signature is asking you to trust yourself and also asking you to trust what the universe brings in or is opening up. And that's where the risk comes in, because you could find yourself saying yes to something and then doubting it and then saying, ooh, I don't know how this is going to show up. I don't know if I can really do this. I don't know. And that's part of what we're recalibrating, because part of how the universe could even bring you something is because there is some type of frequency match. There's something lining up. There's something that does connect. And it could be in the higher realms, it could be in the spiritual realms, the energetic realms, but it came in to your environment, to your awareness, into your life, because there is some type of frequency match, but it's probably higher. And it's interesting because I'm seeing it actually above the crown chakra. So it's almost like it's going up there into the higher chakras, and part of Taurus is grounding it in, bringing it down through the body so that you can stabilize it in some capacity. But it never would have arrived within your energy field if it wasn't a match in some way. So this is also how Uranus supports our quantum growth or even leapfrogging. Because when you think about leapfrogging, it's not linear. It's not something that happens step 1, step 2, step 3. No, it's step 1 and then all of a sudden you're on step 17. You're like, how did I get here? Well, the energy moved you forward, you leapfrogged ahead, and now there's this whole new shift and change, but it's because you're ready. Otherwise, it never would have shown up in the first place. It couldn't have. It couldn't have energetically connected. So this is where it can be tricky to get out of our own minds, because what we're doing with the Uranus energy is connecting to the higher mind, the cosmic intelligence of it all. It's really the cosmic intelligence of energy systems and how we interact and participate in them. And so this is why you can have surprises and out of the blue developments and wow, how did that even show up? How did that even come through? Well, in some manner, there was an energy match, and it's what you do with it. It's how you make the most of it. It's whether you say yes or no. It's whether you jump and go for it or not. And that, of course, is then what leads you to your next thing, or it shows you where you're perhaps staying in a certain pattern or belief system that is ultimately a limitation, because the universe is showing you there's actually something else over here, or there's more to discover, or there's more for you to build and grow, which are energy signatures of Taurus. So this is where you can have beautiful quantum leaps. You can have wonderful developments that take you so much further than you thought, because it's not about the human thought process. It's the cosmic energy. It's the cosmic intelligence of it all that's showing you where you do have an energy match to something, some experience, some location, some person, whatever. And are you willing to say yes? So during this retrograde phase, there could be things that you are reviewing, reprogramming, rebooting to look at how it's matching up for you or not. And I feel like this also continues to stir up the fears, where those fears can be the limitations. And how are you actively looking and working with those fears, or how are you trying to perhaps leapfrog around the fears? But that doesn't quite play out so well, because they do come back around, especially when they're connected to an unconscious belief system. Now, Uranus retrograde is going to have some big energies coming up in the first 10 days of October 2022, when Uranus will be at 18 degrees of Taurus and make another square to Saturn in Aquarius, also retrograde at 18 degrees. And they're going to have their fourth square. Now, we had 3 squares in 2021 between Uranus in Taurus and Saturn in Aquarius. This is not an exact square, meaning yes, they're both at 18 degrees, but as astrologers, we look at, is it going to be the exact square by degree and minute? And it's not, but it's close enough. They're both going to be at 18 degrees. And they're meeting up again in this square, which is tension, pressure. What's changing? What's not changing? What's working? What's falling apart? Saturn in Aquarius has data, information, facts. How are things playing out? How are things showing up? What have we learned? What are we understanding? And Uranus in Taurus brings in that instability, that sense of, well, is this truly what I value? Does this really make sense? Is this really what I want? And so there is this tension here in the beginning of October that can bring up some of the bigger change themes from 2021. In your personal chart, you would look at where you have 18 degrees of Aquarius and 18 degrees of Taurus. And these 2 houses in your chart are where you're feeling that tension or pressure, also where you were feeling it in 2021. And then something is coming up for you to revisit it, but ideally from a higher consciousness. Ideally, you're looking at something from a higher place of understanding, and you're able to perhaps see it in a new perspective or see it in a new way, especially because both planets are retrograde. So those are more internal energies. It's internally assessing. It's looking at your own choices and decisions. How have you been growing and evolving over these last few years? And how are you showing up for yourself in a way that supports your unique self, your unique energy signature? One of the big phases we're moving through on the planet is that we have more and more people really stepping into their authenticity. And in some ways that sounds like a nice fluffy word, but really it's disruptive because it means you're not part of the status quo. You want to be an individual. You want to be an entrepreneur. You want to do your own thing. You don't want to be a cookie cutter anymore. So this is where society starts to feel shaken up because you have these people and these energies that want to dismantle the status quo, that want to challenge what is, what was, and basically expand the consciousness on the planet, expand what is possible for humanity, and keep our energies evolving in a way that allows us to be who we are, that allows us to keep growing into our unique individual selves without the pressure to fit in, without the desire to have to follow what's always been done. So this is quite disruptive when you look at how that affects society at large, but at the same time, these are the energies we're in, and it's about the level of consciousness we bring in to these dynamics. It's about what we own in ourselves that brings us back to where we feel empowered to be who we are. So yes, very disruptive time on the planet. We all know that. That's so obvious, of course, but it's also right on time. The astrology says it's right on time that we are feeling these tensions and pressure and challenges, because ultimately that is where we then burst through to new solutions, new ways of living our lives, new ways of understanding what's possible on this planet, and also new ways of being ourselves that feel more authentic and true than ever before. And then the other big period of time where this Uranus and Taurus is going to be quite instrumental will be when we have the November 8th Taurus lunar eclipse at 16 degrees, which is where the moon will be exactly conjunct Uranus at 16 degrees. The North Node will be at 13 degrees, and those 3 points and planets, Uranus, Moon, and North Node, are opposing the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and South Node in Scorpio. So we have a very transformative and significant Taurus lunar eclipse on November 8th that's really going to highlight these energies even more. And I feel like it's going to be much more personal. It's going to be something that lands that we're really working with our own transformation process and being more aware of what we are building and creating in this life and if it fits or not. Because there's something about this particular lunar eclipse that could be very drastic, very intense. A lot is shifting, a lot is changing. So in your own chart, you would look at where you have 16 degrees of Taurus and 16 degrees of Scorpio, as these are the 2 houses that are going to be working with this eclipse energy. But the energy is heightened because of that Uranus retrograde energy signature in the mix. So we have strong Uranus energies here that are going to keep popping out at us. And it's going to be something that we continually feel and ride. And keep in mind, this could be so beautiful for you. This could be where you're really ready to make some big changes. You're really ready to say yes to something. You're really ready to trust yourself in a new way or look at a part of your life that you haven't been satisfied with and make the needed changes. And that's because, again, the universe is not letting us stay comfortable. The universe has amped it up. We are feeling it, and you could feel it in yourself physically. You could be feeling it again in your nervous system, in your electrical wiring. You could feel the energies pulsing through that are wanting you to evolve and transform. And it could be something that you can't deny, like you can't shake it off. You can't get away from it because the universe wants you to have better, to have more, but also wants you to step up, wants you to elevate, wants you to grow in this direction. And at the same time, there could be parts of yourself that are in a power struggle around it. So this Uranus retrograde is not going to be quiet by any means. It's going to keep shaking and rattling things because we're meant to shake off. You're meant to remove. You're meant to feel things moving through you and moving out of you that you no longer need. In fact, a quick story to share with you about this same theme is that I was recently at a gathering with some very beautiful people and one of my mentors as well. And during one afternoon, I was so tired. We had done some very powerful work and I was very intentional around what I was wanting to evolve and change in my life. And this afternoon, I was so tired to the point where I couldn't understand what was going on. I didn't know why. I didn't know what was happening. When you get tired these days, you start to wonder, am I getting sick? Did I catch something? But I could tell it wasn't that. And what I was getting was this visual of my cells being exfoliated, like something within me literally shifting. My body was doing a lot of internal work, and that's why I was so tired. It literally felt like that cellular reprogramming, which is hard to logically understand, but I could feel it and energetically I could sense it. And frankly, it's the only thing that even made sense. So I felt that was what was happening and I could feel it moving through me. I could not wait to sleep. And I also couldn't get enough to eat. And then a few days later, I had a huge, drastic shift in my energy towards someone in my world. And I was blown away by how much had shifted, how much had changed within me, and how much had essentially melted away that I was no longer holding and carrying. And it was quite validating as well as quite fascinating. And I just felt free. I felt like so much had changed in a very short amount of time. And then I had this almost instant confirmation around it. And I was like, wow, that's what was happening. I was really experiencing something energetically moving through me that was reprogramming the energy, changing it. And this manifested in a whole new way. I mean, it literally shifted the dynamic I felt and the energy that I was sensing. And I will tell you that it was quite life-changing for me. And again, it didn't take weeks and weeks. It didn't take months and months. I mean, it's something that I was aware of, but I started to get these new cosmic downloads that were shifting my own cellular frequency and changed my own experience very suddenly. And so perhaps that's relatable to you. Perhaps you are sensing that or have something similar in your own world. But these downloads and these reprogramming energies happen quickly when we are intentional, when we want them to change us, when we welcome in the process and the reprogramming. This is where you could feel things change very quickly, very suddenly. And I'll be honest with you, I was totally caught off guard by myself. I was like, wow, my energy has completely changed towards this person. And I'm so proud to have gone through that process because it's big. It's a big thing. So know that that is what this Uranus retrograde in Taurus can support you with. Anything you've been wanting to repattern, reprogram, reboot, anything you want to change within yourself, it can happen quickly and it can happen with ease as you allow the process to move through you and you trust what you don't know. Because again, if something is showing up for you, there's some type of energy match there. And it's your choice around what you do with it. It's your choice in what you decide and how you want to use it. We know how powerful free will is. We know it's something that we can always go to as needed. But when you understand these bigger cosmic cycles, when you welcome them, when you're working with them intentionally, they can serve you in ways that you can't even see at the moment or you can't even fathom. So this is where we continue to trust. And we know how much we say that word in this human journey. Have trust, have faith, keep going with it. But there are reasons for that. And the reasons are in how we transform and evolve into even better experiences in our lives and in ourselves. Now, if you have planets or points between 15 and 19 degrees of the earth signs, so 15 to 19 degrees of Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn, this Uranus energy signature is going to support you with the transformations that you're ready to make with those planets or points. And this again can feel easy. It can feel very sudden. It can feel like you're getting some breakthroughs, new pathways are opening, and it can feel like things are developing in a way that are really positive. If you have planets or points between 15 and 19 degrees of the fixed signs of Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, this is where you're getting the jolts. You're being shaken up. You could feel like you're inside a snow globe and it keeps being shaken and it's not settling down. And this is where you at a soul level agreed to experience some kind of profound breakthroughs at this time, but you have to see, or rather get in touch with those parts of the fixed signs that are resistant, that are unwilling, that are not wanting the change to happen, because that's where you can go into your own belief systems or what specifically that planet or point is looking for and is afraid of losing or is afraid of the change or is overwhelmed by the energies, because these are big, overwhelming energies at times. So you'd have to be very honest with yourself about that. Now, if you have any planets or points between 15 to 19 degrees of the water signs, that would be Cancer or Pisces specifically, then this is where the universe is giving you a new sense of self to flow with, to open to move with. And this is also where the changes can happen with some grace and ease. Although, again, with Uranus, they can be quite sudden and out of the blue. And sometimes the water signs just need time to adjust, just need time to move through your own emotional process or give yourself some space to allow the energy to run through you. And because of how Uranus moves around the zodiac, remember, these are typically once in a lifetime changes. So, how are you ready to do some quantum leaping here? How are you ready to elevate, upgrade, step up, raise your standards, raise your qualifications, do something that supports a beautiful, true, solid sense of self? How are you willing to really own more of what's possible for you in the universe and to ensure that you have a strong belief system that supports that? Because all the riches and all the beautiful manifestations could be delivered to your front door. But if you don't think you're worthy of it, if you don't think you can have it, experience it, own it, you won't fully claim it. And that will also send out an energy message to the universe around where you're at. So keep in mind that yes, these energies are very unsettling and it can be stirring up the pot, really uncomfortable. We're doing some deep work here around our fears. There can be strong activations in the emotional body. But if you're willing to understand that there's a reason behind it. There's always a reason why the universe is bringing you something. There's always a reason why something is showing up. It's because it's time. It's right on time in that giant intelligence of the universe. It's right on time. So it's up to you to trust what you don't see or don't know. It's also up to us to be a little bit braver, to go into those fears or go into those limitations and restrictions and know that they don't define you. They don't define you. They're just a part of yourself. They're just part of that shadow experience or those shadow expressions that you can fully own and work with from a powerful place. So Uranus retrograde in Taurus is a biggie over these 5 months, simply because of the ongoing interactions with other planets, as well as that very powerful Taurus lunar eclipse. And we will keep talking about those energies here on this podcast. I will have some more episodes for you talking about those specific events. And on the Wednesday show, we continue to discuss the weekly energies as they come through. But I hope this has given you a good heads up into where you're ready to make some amazing changes in your life, in yourself, in your energy, and to trust that it's showing up for a reason. There's a frequency match, there's an energy match of some kind, and if you can quantum leap with it, if you can go with it, there could be some beautiful reprogramming that occurs. There could be some beautiful things that evolve for you that would otherwise perhaps take years and years. So if you claim this as working for your best and highest good, that will certainly put you in an energetic alignment with that type of experience. As always, thank you so much for joining me for this podcast. I'll be back every Wednesday and Monday for another episode. You can find out more about me over at mollymccord.online, where I have all of my current astrology programs and courses. And I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, where I share more astrology teachings with you there regularly as well. So thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to connecting with you again very soon. Take good care.